Welcome to the Blueprints Podcast. I'm Isabelle Brodigan with Custom Built Design and Remodeling, and today I'm joined by Michael Flory, founder, CEO, and my dad. And so we're going to dive into your path with the Home Builders Association. You started out in the construction industry, became a member, and then all the way up until 2020, where you were actually the president of the statewide Home Builders Association.
Yeah.
So what was your pathway to get to presidency?
Well, when I first got started, I didn't know I was going to be a builder, and I got really started late in my career. You know, like I started this business, I was like 27.
Mm-hmm.
So really I didn't have a lot of experience in the construction industry, although I did had some. I've been working with, my best friend and at the time, and then my father-in-law, Bob,
Mm-hmm.
was somebody that I had done some remodeling with. And when I decided to start the business, I asked Bob, hey, because he had a home inspection business, and I just asked him, hey, what would you think would be a good thing for me to get involved in so I can learn more and grow in my professional skills and stuff like that? And he said you should check out the HBA. And he wasn't a member of the HBA. I actually recruited him later.
Did you?
It's part of the story of being involved in association. But so I went and filled out the application and joined the HBA, and that was probably 2004-ish. And, got involved, started going to some meetings. They would have monthly meetings. It wasn't anything that was like, I loved to do. I remember they were at night, after hours. I got kids, it was a sacrifice. But what I quickly found out is that there was committees, and that, something that I did like to do was to give back. And I love to have conversations. So at the committee meetings, they were smaller, and you would have a chance to meet somebody and kind of talk to another builder. And then I started building some relationships with other builders, and then I would go have lunch with them, kind of ask them about their business. And they were, probably like my age now, and in their late 40s, some of them in the early 50s, some of them were closer to retirement,
Mm-hmm.
and they would be very open with kind of sharing what they had done, and, challenged me and asked me questions, and had a lot of great meetings with other builders. So I think the first thing was just joining. And once you join, you can kind of figure out what they had educational stuff that you could get involved in. And then committees. And then the committee I landed on was the membership committee. And I landed on the membership committee at the worst time in the history of the HBA to be on the membership committee, because it was it was probably end of 2008 when I first joined. So it's going into the winter. People are losing jobs left and right, leaving the state, not being paid. Builders are going out of business. Subcontractors aren't getting paid. And my job was, I got a list of past members that had left the association. And so I started calling them. So I'd call up these, that was part of the membership duty.
Yeah.
And so I started calling up these members, and boy, did I learn really fast that this wasn't the best industry to be involved in, especially at the time that I was in. It was not a friendly environment. And really, I mean, what we didn't know in 2008 was how far down it was going to fall. And just for perspective, at that time, we were in the state of Michigan, they were building, I think 45,000 or 54,000 houses was like the peak. I think it was in the 50,000s was the peak.
Mm-hmm.
And then in 2009 or 10, the low was 6,000 houses. So all of those jobs disappeared overnight.
Wow.
And then the climb back in the state of Michigan, we've never even gotten anywhere. I don't even think we've eclipsed 20,000 in the state of Michigan. And prior to that, I mean, those were big booming years, but 30,000 was the 20-year running average. So even back in the 90s and into the 80s, that the number of houses that were being built to meet the demand that our state needs. And now as we see that really housing hasn't caught back up. So that's another kind of HBA issue, and something, if you're involved in the HBA, you can kind of learn about. But the housing shortage is a real issue, and the affordability of housing is a real issue. And those are things that that the association was really passionate about, and helping serve our community and getting the word out there, and helping people understand regulations and how they they affect the industry. So I just learned a ton. And then through some of the relationships I got involved in, and somebody's like, well, you've been serving you're amazing on the, membership committee. I got to know some people and got to know Doug and Cindy at the time. And then Cindy became the executive director. And then I was asked to be on, did you want to sit on the board? I'm like, well, what does that mean? Sure, I'll sit on the board, And so then I joined the board, and I think it was a pretty big board for the size of organization we were. So I joined the Lansing board of directors and got to serve on that for, I can't remember the term on that, but I think it was 5 or 6 years. And then I worked my way up, and you kind of get on, they call it the ladder to the president. So you'd start off as a secretary, and then you'd be like, first vice president.
Okay. So they had a predetermined path.
And then past president. So if you get on the board and then you get elected to be on the leadership. So I was able to kind of get on the board, and then got it to be a part of moving up and being the president. So I was probably president in 2014 so while I was doing
the Lansing
chapter.
Yep.
And so the HBA is really unique in that it's a federation. So when you join the Lansing, you join the local is what happens. And when you join the local, you pay your local dues. At the time, it was probably $550, $600. I'm not sure what it is today, maybe $650. We pay it, but I don't write the check anymore, so I don't know what it was, or I don't know what it is. But when you pay for the membership, you join the Lansing. And so you got all the benefits of the Lansing. You got your monthly membership meetings. You got committees that you can be on. You can join Professional Women in Building. I know you've been to some of their events, and I think you are a member of that.
Yes.
We have education events at the local chapter. So there's the Remodelers Roundtable, which is kind of like an educational session for remodelers. There's just all kinds of events that you can be involved in. There's the Wild Game Dinner that happens. It's a fundraiser that we do.
They do a build day at Impression 5.
Toys for Tot. Yep.
And then Toys for Tot. Yeah.
Yep. Toys for Tot. And what would you say?
The build day that we do at Impressions 5, which is coming up here October 18th, I believe, where we actually go in and we get to set up our booth, and then we have a craft or a building activity, at least for us, that we have the kids do. And it's super fun and engaging.
Yeah. I hope I get to come this year.
You're on the invite list.
All right, cool. But you also become a member of the Michigan Home Builders Association and then the National Association of Home Builders.
So by getting involved with the local chapter, then you're
automatically
by association, you're automatically in the state, and then even the national.
And there's several chapters across the state. That's what makes up our state association. And our state association is a little bit different in that they're they're like, it's almost more like the lobbyists. They're downtown Lansing working with our elected officials to raise awareness about housing affordability, because that's our mission at the Home Builders Association, is to make housing affordable. And so that's what we're doing at the Home Builders Association, is helping that. And so all of the resources kind of get pooled towards the state, and then the state really works in the world of advocacy and trying to help make housing affordable, more affordable.
Yeah.
And so there's boards. So then I started going to those meetings, and then there's committees at the state level. And then I got on some of those committees. I don't remember what committees I did. And then I got on the chair to be president. And so I went through the 4 years. It's 5 years total. I took an extra year in there because I had my head injury and kind of went through some health stuff, and it was quite the journey. And then I landed on my year to be the president of the state association. It's a pretty big deal. You got to wear suits and all the things that I don't normally do as
speech.
You got to do speeches and all that kind of stuff. So lots of leadership learning, but you get time to learn because you get to go through the different chairs and get different responsibilities and lead certain different committees. And it's a lot of fun along the way. I mean, we would go to the Mackinac Island. They've been going to Traverse City recently, but I landed as president, and the year I happened to be was the year of COVID. And so
wild.
3 months into my term as president, I was up north in Traverse City speaking at the Traverse City local. So as the president, I was going to go around and speak at all the locals. That was kind of one of my goals for the year. And that got shot in the foot in the end of March there. And the whole state shut down. And as everybody knows, that was like a but I got to learn about, video, like Zoom meetings, because I was president of the HBA, but our first meeting was like 700 people and people were mad and it was chaos. I mean, total chaos.
Oh
and
my
so
gosh.
I learned so much. It was probably the most eye-opening opportunity and special opportunity, because I got to see how, there's always a third way, and I just want to talk about this right now, because I think when we get so entrenched that there's all or nothing, or there's Republican or there's Democrat, or in that we think that they're all the same, right? It's a lot more fluid than that, and I would say the majority of our association would probably say they're more Republican, but there was a good chunk of our association that was Democratic. And at that time we had a Democratic governor. And so on my first Teams call, it was like screaming and yelling and people were mad. And after the call, I had people calling me and like, why are members saying things like that? And it's like, yeah, I don't know. That's not right. Like, that's not who we are. And we're trying to represent all. And so it was a real growth experience for me. Just kind of learning that there is a third way often, and that like just because I may believe something doesn't mean I got to force that down somebody else's throat. It's better for me to listen, ask good questions, show empathy and better understand somebody else's position, and then figure out a way that we can work together. And that's what I found to be really effective during that COVID year. And just learned a lot. I learned a lot about myself and a lot about people, and how when we get so focused and we get so triggered and we get so mad and we get so angry that it doesn't produce any good results.
No.
Either way, I don't care which side you're on, both sides, and so that was 2020. I was 2021. I was past president. So your duties are kind of like, you're just there to kind of be
support
like a voice of wisdom. And yeah, like you really, know what to do with their issues. But, and then I've, I didn't go off to, some people will go off to the National Association. And so you can go and serve on that board as well. And then there's committees and, parts of the organization that do things on a national level. That's pretty cool too. And we've had some state members go and be a part of the board at the national level. And that's a really big commitment. And pretty much you can't work in your business if you do a role like that. But again, this is all volunteer, but you always get out of something that you put into it. And I want to kind of just end end this episode on that, is that like the purpose of being involved in the association varies for why different people join. But what I found with being involved in an association, you're only going to get out of that association what you're willing to give into that association. So when I went to membership meetings, it used to be like, I got to go and network and do all this. When I finally learned from somebody, like, just go and meet somebody and see if you can be of a benefit to somebody else there. And when I would do that and I would show up to networking events or different events that I was a part of, I'd always meet somebody, would have a great conversation, get to know somebody, and then we'd have a great one-to-one couple weeks down the road, learn something from them, be able to give somebody something back to maybe an earlier career builder. And so that was always something that I loved about the association. And then, as you got, if you get on a board, you get to hang out with other leaders of other companies and you really get to know people. And then those are relationships that I still, talk to some of those people today and can call them if I got a business question, So real amazing organization, amazing leaders.